Charis Calden. I'm the Family Resource Center Coordinator at Lakewood Elementary. This is a summer camp called Healthy Minds, Healthy Bodies. It is a collaborative effort between Lakewood, Creekside, and Cecilia Valley. Today, Tuesday, we are going to the Hardin County Water District Treatment Plant. Today we're going to be learning about the importance of hydration, water conservation, and soil conservation and such. This camp is a collaboration between, let's see here, a whole bunch of agencies. Communicare Regional Prevention Center, the Hardin County Extension Office, the Hardin County Soil Conservation Office, and naturally the Hardin County Schools, the Transportation and the Food Service Department, and of course today, with it being the Water District and the water treatment, we're going to be touring the building and how our water that we drink, it's clean and purified and that whole process. So we welcome you, and in addition to this, we're going to be having water fun, and we're going to also be making stress balls for our families because it is Healthy Minds, Healthy Bodies Camp. So thank you and have a great time.
When it was first built, the center section that we're standing in here was the only thing we had. There was one cone, one couple filters, that's all we had at that time. Of course, Hardin County wasn't as big as it is now back then. We had the capability to treat about 2 million gallons a day at that point in time. So in 2000, just 10 years later, they expanded it twice its size. So we added on 2 sections, one on each end of the building, which brought our capacity up to 8.1 million gallons a day is what we could treat at this facility. Normally we don't treat that much water here. Normally we treat about 6 to 6.5 million gallons a day is what we treat to serve our population. So we take care of all of Hardin County minus the northern section of it. Hardin County District number 1 takes care of that portion of it, like Fort Knox, Radcliffe, Mulder, all those areas. We take care of here, we take care of part of LaRue County and also part of Hart County. So if I'm not mistaken, and I haven't checked these statistics in a while, I believe we're the 2nd largest system under PSC. And I think the other one is that's bigger than us is Warren, so Bowling Green in other words. So that's kind of a brief rundown of the history of the treatment plant. What we do here is we clean water. So a lot of people think we make water. We don't actually make water, we just clean it, is what we do. As you pulled in, it's kind of hard to see right now because of the trees, but if you looked off to the right down there, there's a river flowing by. And you'll see it, I'm sure, as you leave. That's where we pull our water from. There's a spring that comes out of the hillside that flows this way. The river comes this way. We pull from where those two combine is where we pull our water from. So we'll get into more of the process of how we clean it and stuff like that as we walk around, because it's a lot easier for me to show it to you than it is to explain it. But as far as the room that we're standing in now, this is our control room. Hence the name, most everything we control from here. Our chemicals, if we need to turn them on and off, we control them from over there. Our flow rates, in other words, how much water we're pushing through the plant, we control that from here. How much water we're pushing out of the plant, we control that from over here. And then the main thing of all of this that we've got in here is our SCADA system. That's what this is right here. So supervisory control and data acquisition is what this program is called. So what it does is monitors and actually operates part of our system for us, is what it does. So you see all these numbers on this over here where it's got all the green, and you see there's some red on there and stuff. That's monitoring everything about this treatment plant. Everything from the plant from here down, it's monitoring everything from here up. That's our system. So as you look over here, I'm sure some of these look familiar to you. These are water towers, is what they are. These are the ones that our plant takes care of. So I'm sure you've seen them if you rode around town. If you've ever sat in Kohl's parking lot and you look behind it, you see that big old tower sitting up there on the hill. That's that one right there. That's our Para-Orchard Tower. Cecilia Tower, it sits right over there close to Central Hardin on the hilltop. That's where that one's at. So these are all the ones we take care of. So the second most important thing we do is, one, not only clean the water, but we have to maintain the system so that you all have water at your homes. and the businesses, of course. So you'll notice each tank has different levels, right? So it's got numbers on the side. This one says 28 to 39. You'll see a little bar graph type deal there. This one, 28 to 39. There's different height levels. So what we do is we clean the water, and then we pump the water from here to these water tanks. Once these water tanks get full and get up to that top number, we shut them off. The reason we shut them off is we have to turn these tanks over. So if we filled them up and we kept them full all the time, you know, which you know, a lot of water is not a bad thing. Too much water is never a bad thing. But if it's sitting up in top of this bowl, okay, that bowl it's made of steel. It's sitting in the sun. It's getting heated up. It will do what's called stratification. So what that is, you've got cold water on the bottom. Cold water is actually heavier, right? So you've got cold water on the bottom. Then it heats up in the middle, and you've got an area in the middle, and then you've got hot water sitting on top, right? So they won't mix. They will stay just like that. So no matter how much water we push in the bottom of that tower, it's never going to go to the top. It's going to stay right there in the bottom. So you get bad water pockets is what you get on top of it. Because water, if it sits too long, will become stagnant, basically, is what it will do. So we turn those over. So once it gets full, we shut it off, and we let that drain back down. And once it gets to that lower level, it tells us, hey, I need some water. We start pushing water back to it. That's the two most important things that we do here. So whenever you're at home and you turn on a faucet, say in your kitchen or in your bathroom, or you flush the toilet, anything you do that uses water, it's coming from one of these tanks that's closest to your home. Maybe not ours if you don't live around one of these tanks, but regardless, it's coming from a water tank that's close to your home. So that's pretty much what this room here does. This is our lab. This is our operator's lab is what this is. So when we clean the water, we either have to take something out of the water or we're putting something in the water. That's about the easiest way that you can put it. We feed, I think, about 6 or 7 different chemicals, which we'll go over as we walk around the treatment plant. We have to monitor all of that because we need chemicals to clean the water, but too much chemicals can have adverse effects. You feed too much of something, it could also be harmful to a body. So we have to make sure we stay in line when it comes to everything that we feed. We also, what we do, okay, so the main thing that we have to do is we have to take turbidity out of the water. All right, so you say, well, what's turbidity, right? So when you walk up to a creek or a river or a lake or wherever it is, you know it's kind of green and murky and muddy looking sometimes after a rain and stuff like that. That's what turbidity is. It's how clear the water is, how much you can see through it. So what we do, all that stuff that's in water, like say you're looking at green water and you say, well, that water's pretty clear, but it's murky, right? It's not completely clear. All the dirt that's in that water is constantly bouncing off itself. It's got a negative charge to it, so that's what keeps it in motion, keeps it dirty like that. So we feed a chemical that's called a cationic polymer. It coats all those little particles, is what it does. Once it coats it, it makes it to where they'll stick together. Then they'll start forming against each other. They'll make bigger clumps, is what they'll do. And once we make those bigger clumps, we can then take those out of the water, is what we do. So that's the main thing that we do here. So a lot of you were looking at the jars that are over here. So you look at, when you're looking at them there, see how they look like snow globes?
Yeah.
How they've got all that white stuff? That's exactly what I was just talking about. All those particles that we formed that are floating around, that's what we're doing out here inside our treatment plant. That's just one test that we run. So out there, when we treat water, it takes about 4.5 or 5 hours for that water to get through here and get finished before we know if we did our job right. But this test does the exact same thing, except it does it in 10 minutes. So we know immediately if we're doing what we need to be doing as far as treatment. Because water, this is the funny thing about water. The water that's passing right now is not the same water that passed 10 minutes ago. Water is always changing because it's picking things up. It's picking stuff up off the side. Rains come, washes stuff off into the water. There's organics growing in it. You never get the same water twice. Sure.
Can you make that go fast?
Oh yeah. We actually changed the speed. Right now I've got it so if I make it go too fast right now, it's going to break all that stuff up. So the way the test actually works is you spin it up really quick at first, and that's what gets everything moving, and then you slow it way down, and you just let it sit there and spin. Is how it works. So, we also have to record everything, all the lab tests that we do. We test pH, we test alkalinity, we test fluoride, we test chlorines, we test ammonias, we test all kinds of stuff in here. We have to record all that. One for the state, two for accountability. So we're responsible for the public's health. We are on the front lines of that. Because each and every one of y'all's households, when you turn on the tap, that water is coming from one of us treatment operators, whether it's here or another water company or wherever it may be. We're responsible for the health of you all when you drink that water. We have to be accountable. This is part of that. So we record everything there. This is exactly the same thing you looked at in the other room. It's just a backup. We have more than one of them. This is our micro lab. All right, so that was our operator's lab. That's where we test all the stuff that we clean the water with to make sure we're doing our job right. This is our state certified micro lab. So there's things that can grow in water that you can't see with your eye, or that our chemicals can't take out because they're so small. Bacteria, stuff like that. That's the stuff that we have to make sure once we clean the water and we take care of all that stuff at the plant, we have to make sure that water stays good while it's out in the system. So the way the state has designed it to ensure we're doing that right is we have to take water samples. Each week we have a set of water samples that we have to take throughout the water system. At the end of the month, we will have covered the entire system is the way that works. They're called back-T samples is what they're called. The guys go out, they go to certain sample points throughout the system, they pull a bottle of water, they bring it back here, we test that in-house. Everybody, or a lot of people I'm sure have heard of boil water advisories. You hear stuff come across the radio, newspapers, stuff like that, they'll say boil water advisory. So here's what a boil water advisory is. If a line breaks, and you'll see water coming out of the ground, guys with the backhoes out there digging and fixing it up. What happens is, if that line broke, right, there is a potential that something could have got into it if the pressure falls below a certain point. So, doesn't mean there's anything in there, doesn't mean there's anything that's going to make you sick, but there could be. So they issue a boil water advisory. What we have to do is after we fix that, we pull water samples from that. All right, that sectional line is sectioned off to itself. We're pulling water samples out of it, make sure it's good. If after a 24-hour period it comes back clear, we're ready to go. We call the state. The state is who lets the boil water advisory go, and then everything's good. If it comes back and looks like this, it has bacteria in it. So we have to go back, disinfect that line, flush it out, whatever it may be, and then resample again. So this is why we have boil water advisories, all right? Because potentially if somebody was to drink this, obviously it's not going to look like this when it's regular water. That's our stuff that made it look yellow like that. But there's bacteria in that could have made you sick, is the way that works. Yeah, right, yeah, exactly. And that's the reagents that we use to make it change colors, is what that is. So we test not only our samples here, but we test for other utilities. We also test for Grayson County, Litchfield, Caneyville, LaRue County does some. There's quite a few different places that we offer that too, because we're really the closest other than like Louisville, Lexington, somewhere like that. We can't do what the big commercial labs can do because you can only do what you're licensed for, but that's what we take care of here. So that's what this room does. So from here, we're going to get out to the fun stuff. We're going to go out in the actual treatment plant.
So what you saw over here inside the cone, that's about middle way through the process is what that is. Now we're not done, because as we're looking over here, that's not going to catch everything inside that sludge blanket. There are still some small parts that are going to get through, right? So from there, it goes into filters. Now these may not look like it, but on each side of this, you've got two big filters. They're gravity filters is what they are. They've got different size media in it. So they've got anthracite coal, they've got sand, and they've got different size rocks down in the media is what they have. Water flows down through it and then comes out clean on the bottom. Anything that got missed over here, it gets picked up right there. Those filters are just like a filter you have in your home, like you got air filters and stuff like that you see. Eventually they're going to get dirty and they're going to stop working. The water's going to back up. Once that water They usually run for about 120 hours, roughly, is how much time we get through them. All right, so this is what's called our head tank. So when the water gets pumped in from the river, this is the first place it comes. So when you look down there, you see that water boiling up, right? So there's a pipe inside of this, is what it is. So the water comes up in the middle, spills over the top, and it goes back down through. It's a mixing chamber, is what it is.
How does the water get back in the lake if you take it out of the lake?
That's a good question, and we'll get to that when we walk out back. I'll cover it, I promise. That's a really good question, though. So when you look down in there, you see like this black water that was floating around in there, right? That was kind of squirting out of the side of it. That is a chemical we're feeding. That's called powdered activated carbon. It takes care of all the taste and odors that are in water. Anything that comes through, that's what it does. A pound of carbon has a surface area more than a football field. This is our dry chemical room here, is what this is. All right, so these two big feeders that you see out here, remember that carbon I was just talking about outside that's going into the head tank? That's where it comes from, out of these feeders right here. Now these two aren't running because we got a real big one that's running on the other side of the building right now. But these are our backups, so we can run these also. The little feeder that you see over here feeds another chemical that we feed called potassium permanganate. It actually turns the water purple, is what it does. So it's a pre-oxidizer. Once it does its job, it's not purple anymore. And it goes through. But that's where we feed it from. So that's what gets fed in here. This one behind you is our fluoride. These are our bulk tanks. So you see all these little tanks that we have. Those are considered day tanks. We also have bulk tanks that we keep the chemical in. So when we order chemicals for this treatment plant, they come in by the semi-truckload. Those big semi-truck tankers that you see running down the road, that's what we get our shipments in. So all those chemicals we feed from here. As you walk by, there's a window into that room over there. That's one of the most important chemicals that we feed, but also one of the most dangerous. Chlorine is fed from that room. Now I said it's the most dangerous thing we feed. Now the reason it's the most dangerous thing we feed, that gas is 2.5 times heavier than air. So if for whatever reason that gas will get loose, if you breathe it in, it won't come back out of your lungs. It will suffocate. Is what will happen. It won't come back out. It's heavier than the air you're trying to take in. It has a couple big doors on the outside. You can't access that from inside the treatment plant. The way we access it from the outside, that's our safety. Now we have every safety system under the sun on this stuff over here. We have alarms, we have vacuum regulators, you name it, we've got it on this system to keep us safe. You have to be very respectful with this type of chemical when you're feeding. But that's how all the little small stuff, that's how we take care of it. So this is the very last part of the treatment plant. You're looking in the bottom, is what you're looking at. All right? So I talked about the water flowing into the cone. See those lime green pipes that are coming in right over there on the other side? That's where that water's coming from. So it shoots right into the bottom of that cone and then it goes up and around and around and around and around. What's that? No, it can't overflow. The way it's designed, it can't overflow. It has a drain. Well, the reason the water, all right, that's a good question. Why is there water on the ground? We're inside a building with all this water. So it's 100% humidity at all times inside this building. So everything's sweat. We actually have seen clouds inside this building due to the humidity. Just so, oh yeah, that's not unusual at all. We've almost got our own atmosphere inside this building. Very good question. All right. So as you look up, you see different color pipes, right? The lime green that we were talking about, that's raw water, okay? That's water that's coming from the creek that we haven't done a lot with yet. There's a little bit of chemical in it, but that's about it. The brown water, remember when I talked about those filters up top that had to be cleaned? When we clean them, that's where that dirty water goes. Now, you asked a really good question up there. You said, where does the water go, right? If we take it there, how does it get back? All right, here's the way that works. We clean the water, we send it to you, right? You use the water, then it goes down a drain. When it goes down your drain, it goes to a sewer plant. You know what a sewer plant does? The same thing we do. They clean the water all the way up. The only difference is they put the water back in the river. So it's a constant recycling of water is the way it works. We do the same thing when we wash a backwash on a filter. Once that water is completely clean, we send it back out to the river too. So essentially, none of this water is wasted. It just takes a while for it to get back into where it should be. The same amount? No, you don't have the same. No, definitely not. Matter of fact, if you go out west right now, I know it's scary to say, but they're running out of water out there. It's so dry that they've used up their groundwater supplies out west, and it can't replenish as fast as they're taking it away, is what's happening. So they're having to come up with all kinds of wild stuff out there. I'm not educated on that stuff they're doing, so I won't speak on it too much. The other colors that you see, this dark blue, that's finished water. Yep, that's right, clean water. When we're all the way done, that's where the water goes. That's right, exactly. The light blue, that's backwash water, it's the same thing. And the green you see right there, that's for air, is what that's for. Yep. Yep, that's air. The brown one, that's backwash water. Yep. So that's pretty much our treatment plant. That's a real basic run through of what we do, but that's our treatment plant.
Thank you for tuning in to the Healthy Minds, Healthy Bodies Camp.